When you quit drinking, it can be so easy to look around and feel like you're missing out on all the fun things everyone else is doing. You see parties and drinks after work and fancy dinners with wine, and it feels like a letdown to be sober. That's all normal, but it doesn't have to feel that way. In this episode, we tackle FOMO, the fear of missing out, and give you some mindset shifts that will make you glad you're missing out on the alcohol so you don't miss out on your real life.
Welcome to Through the Glass Recovery Podcast, where we believe that connection is the opposite of addiction, vulnerability is the antidote to shame, and that recovery isn't just rewarding, but it's also a lot of fun. We're your hosts, Steve and Julie. Listen as we get together with friends to shed light on the hard things, talk about the other side of addiction, and how we create a life so full, there's no space left for alcohol.
Just a quick reminder, make sure you come find us on Facebook. We've got a great private Facebook group that gives you a place to talk about the podcast episode safely and privately. You can find us at facebook.com/ttg.recovery. Again, that's facebook.com/ttg.recovery. All right. Hey, everybody. It's really good to see you guys. I actually had this crazy day, and I've been twitching all day from so much stuff going on, and it's almost like I can take a deep breath and settle in with my people now. So I am really happy to be hanging out with you three, plus Steve, and excited for our conversation today. So as per usual, we will do introductions and get everybody introduced so we can dive into this. I am going to let Raul start us off.
Hello, my name is Raul, and today we share 4 years, 8 months, and 22 days. Yay!
Right on.
I'm from a city called Yakima in Washington in the Pacific Northwest. I work as an outside salesman and divorced, single, and loving life. So we got.
Awesome. We've known Raul since the very beginning of our recovery journeys. So it's super cool to share this space with you and get to hang out with you again.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And then next up, we're going to go with Gina, aka Modern Day Monk. Do you want to tell us about yourself?
I would love to. Hi, everyone. I'm Gina, Modern Day Monk. I make really awesome, influential hip-hop music. And I've been in recovery for 4 years and some change. My sobriety date is 11/24/19, so I'm coming up on an anniversary, but no fronts, so I'll wait until then. Let's see, I'm a full-time student at Colorado Mesa University. I'm in my last year. I study psychology, and I'm going to minor in philosophy. I have a beautiful partner, and we have 2 rabbits, 2 dogs, and we're currently fostering a dog that has 4 puppies. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I am a blue belt with 3 stripes, and I also train and teach Muay Thai kickboxing. And I'm out of Grand Junction, Colorado.
So right on.
You are busy. That is so cool. I love hearing all the things you're involved in. That's awesome. Yeah, I still think you and I need to sit down and have coffee together sometime. I'm sad that hasn't happened since, we're local to each other. So we'll put that on the list of things to do someday when you're not busy.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Sweet. Cool. All right. And then last but not least is Heather.
Hi, I'm Heather. I currently am living in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Recently returned to the U.S. after living overseas for 11 years with my family. We were in Abu Dhabi last. And how do I define myself? So I'm an art therapist. I am a professional coach. I'm a recovery coach. I'm a woman in recovery. I am an ambassador for an organization called She Recovers, which is a huge part of my recovery. And I have a podcast called For Sober Chicks that I've been doing for 3 years with some amazing women that I've met along the journey. I am over 7 years alcohol free. And my entire life is recovery. It's all of it. Like my own recovery comes first, because without that, I don't have anything else. But the opportunities, the situations I've had in my life, I'm just passionate about helping others find this.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that loud and clear. I think that's awesome. Make sure you send us a link to your podcast. And Gina, also make sure you send us some music links. I know you've got some there. And we're going to have all that stuff in the show notes for you guys to make sure you can catch up with everyone here. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have all three of you with us. So for our topic, it seems like everywhere you look, people are drinking alcohol and having so much fun. Sometimes it can be your own friends and family, but sometimes it's even just on TV or in movies or when you're out at a restaurant or an event of some kind. And depending on your headspace, it can feel pretty disappointing. You end up feeling like you're getting left out, and that can easily lead you down a dangerous road. And even just the fear of missing out can keep people stuck in a drinking cycle for a long time. So when have you felt like you were missing out? How do you deal with that FOMO, fear of missing out, the FOMO feeling now that you're sober?
I'm just gonna hop in there. Might as well. When I saw this topic, I was like, oh, that's a good one. Even with a little bit of time in recovery, I still experience FOMO. What's beautiful about recovery is that it has given me so many options in life, like so many options that weren't even options before. Like I would just, I would make these amazing plans in the bar and then never leave the bar. You know what I mean? And that's just how it was. I was always spending all my money, always doing all these, always having all these schemes, but none of them ever worked and it never happened. But when I got into recovery and I started working on myself and I started living differently, all of a sudden this whole world opened up to me. And my girlfriend always tells me, she says, Gina, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that sucks. That sucks because you know what I mean? Like I want to be wrestling and I want to hang out with my friends, but I want to be a full-time student and I want to be in the studio and I got to spend time with my girlfriend, got to feed the animals, and the list goes on. I want to hang out with Julie and Steve. I want to you know what I mean? Like the list just goes on, and I can't do everything. And as far as like thinking about like the society that we live in, that it's just like booze is just advertised on every corner. I swear in Grand Junction, there's two things. There's two things that exist here more than anything else. And that's churches and liquor stores. And they're just on every corner, every block. I mean, it's not happening.
You're not wrong. They are everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, in early recovery, I used to grieve not drinking. I used to grieve that party. I used to grieve all that. But then I would remember that like one beer would turn into 30, would turn into getting cracked out. And now I'm been up for a month. And now, like I've spun so far out of control. And like these people are out here, they look like they're having a good time. You know what I mean? And maybe some of them are, and more power to them. But I was never looking for a good time. I was looking to get wasted. You know what I mean? Like just bottom line, blacked out. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like that's the romanticizing thing, right? We're like, oh, it would be so nice to just go have a drink or a glass of wine or whatever. And like my reality is I never wanted one glass of wine, ever. There was no point in having one glass of wine. And so I think with romanticizing, the first thing we have to do is just get honest with ourselves and be a little more realistic, because the picture that we're creating in our heads, like for most of us, literally never happened.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was reflecting because I got sober while I was living in China. And so that very much shaped my early recovery. I lived in like rural China. So that was before everything was online. I only had intherooms.com. and I had a recovery coach and a therapist, and I would travel to Shanghai, and I would do as many meetings as I could physically do in a weekend. So for me, FOMO, by the time I got sober, I was so close to destroying my life that alcohol has it's never been an issue again. I don't ever want to go there. I got sober at 41. I had 2 kids that I got sober for them, but I stayed for myself. So that wasn't the hard part of it. I think it was learning how to have the relationships and the experiences and the community that I had without alcohol, because it was such a social lubricant, and I'm such a lunatic that like I'm so full on sometimes. Like you talk about that list, that's my undiagnosed ADHD, plus trauma, plus addiction. So like my brain no longer operates the way that it ever should, And so I used alcohol to like numb that, or to be socially acceptable, or to wait till everyone else is not socially acceptable, and then I can just be me, and like being in recovery, I'm okay with who I am. I love who I am. I want to be up at 5:30 in the morning. So stupid. I have a dog. She wants to be up at 5:30 in the morning.
I'm the same way. I get it. It's not stupid.
But like, yeah, no, but this is what I want. I don't want to miss out on. I don't want to miss out on the time in my studio. I don't want to miss out the time that I have. I did a lot of damage to my body. I've had some really scary health scares, and I don't want to miss out on any of it. So it's kind of, I do appreciate a lot of people really, really struggle with that part of it. And there are so many incredible things to help with that. My biggest rule is have fun, make it fun. Like time limited, make it fun, have a reward. Like I can go anywhere. Why am I there? Is there a good band? Is there a great meal? Is there a group of friends? I am not sitting at the bar. I have no reason to be there. So not an issue. But like, how do I have fun? What's time limited? I can't be there all that. No, they just get dumb and I'm out. Like, and what's the reward? The reward is the next day I feel amazing. The reward is, once again, I build that recovery capital where I like had great conversations that I remember, and I'm present, and that's kind of the stuff that I try to focus on. So
you said something really valuable there that is, I'm not sure if I've heard that twist on it. I'm going to kind of reiterate that you focus on it like you have the FOMO of missing out on real life instead of missing out on the pseudo fun things that we used to think we were doing for a good time. You're more afraid of missing out on what real life has to offer. And I think that's a really important and really valuable way to look at that.
Yeah. And I would love to say that this comes from like this really esoteric place, but this comes from trauma. This comes from burying multiple women, multiple individuals in my life to this disease. Yeah. And getting sober meant that my kids might not have to bury me.
Right.
And so that terrifies me.
Mm-hmm.
I have no alcohol. No, not even worth it. No.
Right.
I was definitely listening to her talk there, and it was like, my FOMO with alcohol doesn't exist anymore. And Raul, this goes along with the question that you asked earlier on before we started this recording about what perspective do you want? And I think both are great. I'm going to come to you after I'm done talking. But first it was the fear of missing out on connection, which my old version of connection, I was going to miss out on the event, and drinking was part of the event, even though that's something I didn't want to admit. But if I didn't go to the event, then I missed out on being around the people as well as the drinking. And those two went hand in hand. Now I'm afraid of missing out on the rest of my life. if I don't put the effort in now, and it's very much like what you're saying, Heather, like if I don't put the effort in now, I've missed out on my 30s. There's a lot of that I don't remember. I don't want that to be me again. So like the fear of missing out on my future drives me to do the stuff that I'm doing today, because I've found connection, and I still miss out on, and I still have a fear of missing out on connection and events and people that I, just like what you were saying, Gina, right? You can't be everywhere and do everything and be at all of the things. Time management gets in your way. But that's the what now. It's the who. It's the connection. I think that's the part that I fear of missing out the most. And I fear of missing out on what my potential could be. Because there's so much, it feels like, that I've not even, the egg hasn't even started cooking yet. I just don't, there's so much I don't know now because the world has opened up so much. What can I gobble up next? Right. Raul, have at it, man.
Well, what started this whole journey for me was my son got in a lot of trouble. I was divorced, and my teenage son, couldn't get along with mom's new partner. And so he decided to live with me, and we both drank under the same household. There was a moment where he called me at work, and he was frantic. The pit of my stomach fell to the ground. And he was in trouble. He had been drinking during lunch, and he almost killed himself in a motorcycle accident. And, when I went to go see him, he had other issues with the law too that were going to come crashing in, because he had them deferred and with the premise that he would stay out of trouble. And when I went to go visit him at the hospital, he wasn't arrested. He broke his arm, and I went to go pick him up. And he was in panic mode. And he said, Dad, what am I going to do? And I made a simple statement of, son, you can do this. You can figure this out. He's a man, but I called him a kid. But I said, you can do this. I mean, you're a good person. Your biggest problem is you drink. And if you were to just stop that, then this could be manageable and you can get over this. And he promptly called me out. He says, Dad, I agree. Why don't you help me? So that was the boundary that he set. And, I didn't know if I could keep that promise, because I was in acceptance that I was just going to die an alcoholic. I would hear statistics saying not very many people get sober. Many of them, drink till their dying days. And I was like, okay, I'll just be one of those statistics. Why bother, right?
I feel that.
So I'm like, all right. I said, yes, I'll help you. It took about a month and a half after that accident. It was 12/28/2019. So you got one more month than I do, Gina. Kind of like, can I keep this freaking promise? And there was a grieving process. And the fear of me was like, now I'm going to be left with my own thoughts. Like, I'm not drinking now. Now, like, who the hell am I? Is like, I drank to escape my life. I drank to escape all the mistakes that I made. There were so many. Divorce, displaced my kids. My career was going down the tank. And my first year was just the grieving process. But then I was left with the fear of my own thoughts. And it has changed over time. Like, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do for fun? Like, I'm giving up the only thing that in my mind gave me refuge, right? I can just escape and get loaded, get blacked out or whatever. And it's evolved over time what my fears are. Like, I look at social media. Whenever I engage mentally in social media and people having a quote unquote normal time, I know that's my addict brain trying to crack that door open. And I don't want to do that. I'll finish with this for now. Like, I heard a quote from Dana White, the UFC president. And I've been on this eating healthy kick. And he quoted a phrase from Keith Moss. Says, nothing tastes better than skinny. And he modified it as nothing tastes better than the way I feel right now. Absolutely nothing. And when I look at people drinking, it makes me like that dark cloud would just sink in just by having one intention of beer. Because I know that's not where it stops for me. I go to the AA program and they say one beer is too many and 1,000 is never enough. So then I'll be right back to where I started just by having one drink. And right now, that doesn't seem to be an option for me, at least for today.
Right. So I think what I've realized is like, no matter what in your life, you're going to, when you're in recovery, you're going to be missing out on something, right? Or if, I guess not if you're in recovery, it's if you have a problem with alcohol of any kind, you're going to be missing out on something. You have to decide what. So either I'm going to miss out on the parties and the whatever ridiculous things that I did that I'm still humiliated about. And, you know, that fake version of fun, you're going to miss out on the fake fun that you thought you were having. But if you keep drinking, you're going to miss out on your future. You're going to miss out on your real life. And you kind of have to decide which one do you want to miss out on, because you don't have a choice. You're going to have to miss out on something. It's one or the other. And which one's more worth it?
I'd also like to challenge that we can build incredible recovery where we don't feel like we're missing out.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do agree. We can miss out on the mess. We can miss out on the hangovers. We can miss out on the, you know, like baseless relationships. And, you know, like I can definitely not do bar therapy. That would be amazing. So many times.
Bar therapy. Oh God.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, what do you do? I just started to lie. I don't want to hear it. But I built in celebration. I build in events with friends. I build in, and I think this is one I was kind of reflecting, you know, being in recovery in China, being in recovery in the Middle East, which is a Muslim country, and alcohol is different in that society. And it's available in a different way. It is available. But it's interesting because like the bottle shops are kind of what I refer to as like the adult bookstores here, because they're all blacked out, you know, and like, you know, because this is the way it is. And so coming back to the US and seeing alcohol absolutely everywhere has been a moment of like, meh. I didn't realize how much I wasn't really seeing it until now. I'm really seeing it and really noticing it. And yeah, I've also seen a huge shift in non-alcoholic stuff since I've left, which has been a huge change, you know, to go back and forth and see it. So I love the idea of changing the way I have fun, because this is a lifelong thing. Like if I go through it feeling like I'm always missing out, I am not going to make a good decision.
Especially if you feel like you're missing out on alcohol. Like alcohol was the event, right? So you remove the event, and what do you have left? Loneliness, boredom, stuck with my own thoughts.
Itty bitty shitty committee.
Right. Like there's this whole dumbfoundedness that shows up because I've stripped away everything else, left it all for naught. And then I'm afraid of really missing out on what now? Because that's what it comes to. So like my old habits, you know, going to the golf course, because early on I don't know what I was. It was like 4 months sober, company golf tournament. You get out there and I'm afraid of a lot of things. I'm afraid of I'm going to have a drink. I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. I'm afraid of all of these other things. I was also afraid of missing out on my swing lube because I swore I golfed better when I was about 3 or 4 beers deep and it lasted like 3 holes and I was going to get one heck of a drive in there somewhere. And there was that existed. Eventually you hit the other side of it, whether it didn't matter where I went, but even at the golf course, it's the other side of it. Now I'm on the back 9. And my back 9's better than my front 9. And I'm still swinging, and I'm a little bit better, and I'm calmer, and I'm all of these things. And it's even 4 months sober, and I didn't miss out on anything. I got to be there, but I don't know that unless I get to experience it without the thing, alcohol, being the event.
Yeah.
So it's kind of what Heather said, right? I have to change what that looks like for me, and then my fear of missing out on stuff changes with it.
Steve and I went to a concert with my daughter actually like last month. We went to a Blue October concert, Blue October and Switchfoot.
Yeah.
And that's one of those times you could feel like you were missing out, right? You're looking around at everybody else and they're all drinking. And at this point in my recovery, I wasn't really worried about missing out on anything. But it turned out to be the most amazing experience, the best concert I've ever been to. It was an outdoor venue. It was pouring rain.
It was amazing.
And we were dancing in the rain and just had the most amazing time. Like my heart was so full, I felt like I could explode. And all I could think looking around at the people who were drinking was, thank God that's not me. Thank God I don't need to feel like I need alcohol to enjoy this, because I would not have felt as amazing as I did. And I would not have felt that experience like so viscerally if I had been half numb or more. And I think there's, when you get those moments, because you'll have them, and they start, I don't know, I think for me it was like around 6 months or so where I'd have this moment where I'd normally be drinking and I wasn't. And then to be like, thank God I'm not drinking. Thank God that's not a part of this anymore, because this is so much better without it. You got to hold on long enough to get to that point. But it's a really incredible feeling when you look around and you're like, I'm so glad that I want no part of that anymore.
Totally. I love that. I love that you expressed this joy, this genuine joy that you got to experience at, an outdoor venue. And I think that FOMO was best addressed in my life when I started to address the need for external validation. When I realized that I don't need other people to validate me anymore, I validate me, and I enjoy the life that I have because I've been able to grow and get to know myself through, my recovery program. I'm also a friend of Bill's, Raul, like mad love. I love that. AA all the way. But I mean, everybody does it different. I love the community. I love meetings. I love it. It's big part of my life. But when I started to address the things that kept me from having a connection with someone else or with the world or with my life or whatever, like I needed to confront those things and reconcile with the parts of me that made me not want to be with me, that made me not want to be, present. And what I love about my recovery is through all this work that I've done, and I go to therapy. I just saw my therapist this morning. You know what I mean? Like, I realized that I'm going to need some help. I was in the weeds for a really long time, but through my growth, like, I enjoy being present. I have found this serenity and this peace that is like, all I knew was chaos. So it's crazy that that's something that I strive for. I'm also an early bird. I get up at 5 every morning. I went and did jujitsu at 6 a.m. this morning. Like, I like to get up where it's quiet. I can pray. I can meditate. I can connect. And I get a lot of real joy from that too. Like, the spiritual aspect of my life is such a big deal. And like, I'm not religious, none of that, like, and more power to anybody that's like that. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you need to help yourself, whatever you find that works for you, but the spiritual aspect of my life is so fruitful. It's so fruitful, breath work, cold shower still. You know what I mean? Like, just,
Gina, we got to go for a jump in the river in the winter.
I think we should go for a jump in the river and then go get some hot coffee.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's do it. It's a date.
We went on a hike last week. Was it last week, Steve?
Yeah.
We just went on this hike at Blue Lakes out of Ridgeway.
We fell right into it.
So you hike all the way up the side of this hill. Not hill, it's a freaking mountain. You get to that. right? And then there's this alpine lake. It's straight glacier water. And I'm like, all my life I've wanted to jump into that lake. Every time I do that hike, and I've never quite had the guts to do it. I'm like, no, we're good. We don't need to do this. And then some other chick comes up, strips down to her bra and underwear, and just dives in. And I was like, oh my God, all the FOMO. So I did the same thing. And Steve did too. We jumped in. It was amazing. That's the kind of FOMO we need in our lives, right?
It was cold?
It was
like,
cold.
Seriously, glacier water.
Yeah.
Like ice cold.
It was a degree below ice.
Yeah.
I think that you guys have really hit the most important part, and that is the work that we need to do. If you do work on yourself, if you deal with yourself, if you address the things that brought it, try to. I have a library. I have not gotten through all the volumes yet. I've just dealt with the big ones. But that's where I think FOMO gets you. That's where the old behaviors sneak in. If you don't do the work and you don't have new tools, then that's when that becomes so loud. Because there's nothing else in there to kind of dampen that. There's no other supports.
And like Gina's use of the word genuine, I had a recent experience recently with my son. He just became a dad, and I was
Grandpa Raul.
Grandpa.
I got like a senior discount at the golf course without asking. I said, "Hey, wait a minute! I didn't ask." But leading up to the there was a baby shower, and I ghosted everybody. You talk about losing your 30s. I lost my 40s to addiction, and I isolated myself from everybody because every time I saw him, like, oh, there was a reflection of everything that I failed in life with. And everybody that I'd ghosted was going to be there. I was going to be at my ex-wife's home with her husband. And I said, her son invited me to come. Are you okay with that? And we're in good terms. It took her like 3 years before she finally saw a new version of me. And, all my drinking buddies were going to be there. She still drank. They all still drank. And I had a big anxiety leading up to it, and actually called my son and said, hey, how would you, I'm feeling a little bit anxious about this. How would you feel about me not showing up? And he said, Dad, that would be a blankety blank load.
Yeah.
But he called me out and said, all right, I was going to go. I was just testing the waters out just to see if there was an easy way out. But I showed up despite being scared about the situation, despite having to face my emotions. But I was there 100% completely present. And I noticed like people drinking to ease social tension. And for some reason, I just can't stomach people with their fake, oil juice or whatever you want to call it, social oil juice. And it's off-putting because I know it's not coming from a genuine place. And so saying the word genuine, and it was really awkward and uncomfortable, but I just went through the process despite my fears, and because I didn't want to miss out on my son's baby shower. And everybody was so happy to see me. And going through that really, really helped me grow in my recovery. And I didn't have to drink over it because that would have been a recipe for me to I need to have something to take the hit. I can't face this fully present. But I was, 4 years into my recovery. Same with me. I avoided going to golf because there was such a strong association with golf. And I heard a term not too long ago, and then the last week, because I was, hey, I'm doing this thing on FOMO. And then, have you heard of JOMO? Well, I know what was JOMO. The joy
of missing out.
That's the thank God I don't have to drink, right? That's exactly what that is.
And I can have fun. I can have fun going out golfing, hitting the shots and being fully present and not just waiting for the next golf, girl to come with the booze or whatever, or going into the back nine and stopping and getting a bunch of booze and just being completely belligerent by the time the end of the game is there. And did we go golfing or did we go drinking? And so now being present, I'm really learning to embrace that sober side of me, even if I feel uncomfortable. And I know, like when I smell people's breath when I'm golfing, it doesn't appeal to me at all. I'm like, oh, that's a dark cloud right there. I don't want any part of it. And it's just noteworthy when people are behaving slightly different when they're drinking. And that used to be me. So, but now I feel the joy of not partaking in drink.
It's like a nasty reflection of who I used to be. When I watch somebody, look at all the head nods. When I watch somebody, when I watch somebody like half twisted and then fully twisted and mumbling.
I love you, Steve.
I know, like the same things over and over again, or overly emotional, right? Like that was the only time I found the courage to say the things that I wanted to say. And then I would blow up and cry and all of the rest of it. And none of it ever meant anything because I never remembered it the next morning, or somebody had to tell me about it or whatever, or I felt like crap, one or the other, or a combination of them all. Generally speaking, combination of them all. But I just got a job on campus because I go to the same school that Gina goes to. And so I got a job with Mavrides. So, so at night, and I've done this once already, at night I'm picking up students that are 3/4 in the bag, and I only get to spend like 15 minutes with them, so I don't get to spend enough time with them so that they're annoying. You have that level of how much you can tolerate a drunk person. They're young, but I can smell it on them, either the beer or the liquor, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. They provide a service that allows them to go out and do their thing without having to drive or anything like that. There's a free service that's included, which is a beautiful thing. I'm so happy that they actually do this. At the same time, I'm picking up these kids. They're kids to me. I'm picking them up, and I'm going, God, I'm so glad that's not me right now. And then I'm like wondering, I'm going, all right. And I know I can't do this, but I'm doing it anyway. What would have my life been if I was not pissing that time away? Like, and I'm saying this like it wasn't fun, because back in the day it was, and I didn't know what that was going to lead me to today. But I heard a guy walk down the hall and say, I can't make it past Thursday, because I never knew I was going to come to college. And then by Thursday, I was going to be a drunk, and I don't know how to stay sober through the weekend. And this was in the business hall when he walked past with his buddy, and I just caught the tail end of it. And I'm going, whoa. And it makes me wonder what he's going to miss out on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully not as much as we did.
And
yeah,
there's so much more awareness. There's so much more recognition. There's so many more conversations now about, pain and suffering's around, right? But we're starting to, as a culture, and like I said, I have this 11-year difference between when I left and when I came back, and setting up my businesses here. And I work out of a co-working facility because I don't want isolation. I need the social aspect of it, but I don't want to work for anybody else. And so this was like my solution. And I went to tour the place, and they have Sober Curious happy hour. They have happy hour every week. They have a Sober Curious one once a month. There's always non-alcoholic options at every event that they do. And it's very much like no pressure. People don't ask you ridiculous questions. There's a ton of awareness. And it's it's refreshing, like I don't have to, and the founder, who's an incredible woman, gave me free space to run in-person, recovery meetings.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I also say that with there is change coming. There is, this non-alcoholic industry, when I got sober, they would say, oh, the only thing about non-alcoholic beer is for the non-alcoholic. They're right. It was gross. And It's not a big part of my recovery. I don't like replica stuff. Again, why would I be drinking something that tastes like wine? But I do love like the ginger cranberry and the lime and the fresh mint and making it something I want to drink. That I love. And those, and not so much sugar. And, because I'm, give me another drink with red dye and cherries in it.
Right.
Talk about the flavor. I think that was one thing, because I like just missing out on the taste. It all became an acquired taste. So yeah, I liked my whiskey.
There was this time where I, to your point, noticing somebody that's drinking and making a judgment on it. And it was very strong as it related to my son, because he went back out on April of 2022. And I just saw his light just completely go within a period of a month. And I struggled because he wasn't getting it, and there was nobody in the world that I'd wanted him more than him to have his recovery. And then I would badger him. I said, are you going to meetings? What are you doing for this? Are you taking care of your money? And I had like such control because I wanted to control everything, because I didn't want to face a disaster. And I had the fear of him potentially. He's a blackout drinker. I'd pick him up a couple of times from places. I go, stop driving, just park it. I'll go get you. And I really struggled with that. I wanted to hold on and control his modules. And it was hurting me because I was just obsessing over, the next shoe to drop. And it just perpetuated our clashing, because I would get in his business. He would reject me. Actually had to go to a support group, Al-Anon. My buddy kept saying, you should go to Al-Anon. If anything, you're your own qualifier. And man, it's been enlightening. I started going since the beginning of the year. People are going to do what they're going to do. And it's his life. He has a right to make his own mistakes. And I can be there. Financially is where, I was struggling, and said, if you're going to help, do it without any strings. Or if you can't help, just put the boundary. And I really slowly started to learn how to detach myself. And I learned about detachment. There's loving detachment. There's anger detachment. There's indifference. And I chose the loving way because I love my son, but he's also a grown man. He's a father. He has 1.5 years. But to get free from that obsession of worrying about him was so amazing. Like, now I can focus on myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm still learning how to do that. If people are going to drink, how was that guy or whatever? Like, I know what that's like. What I didn't know was what this is like. I mean, I drank for over 30 years, and I drank to the point where the first conscious thought was, how much booze do I have? I need something to get me straight to go to work. And now I just like, it's a decision. It's a choice that I make to live this way. Not everybody lives this way. And when I see people drinking, and there may be thoughts, oh, that'd be kind of cool to have a cold beer right now. It's hot, playing a game of golf or whatever. But I know what that is. I know what that's like.
It's just a thought now too, right? It's literally just a thought. It's like an old habit comes back, and it's like, this is beer time. And you're like, no, it's not. Okay, then carry on. How much do you just carry on now?
And Julie was one that would say, create a life so full, right?
Create a life so full, there's no space left for alcohol.
And
right.
I'm
having a lot of fun discovering who I am.
Yeah.
Dealing with my emotions. And in fact, when people would say emotional maturity or emotional sobriety, and I'm like, what the hell are they even talking about? Like, where did they get that out of a book, right? And I'm like, all that I'm dealing with my emotions and being a big boy, right? And learning how to process those completely sober. And the connection is really important to me because I share my thoughts with other people that I trust.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, test me out. How crazy am I for having this thought?
No, there's so much to that. That's how we make the full life, right? That create a life so full, there's no space left for alcohol. Like, I've lived my recovery by that phrase since I think I was 2 months sober. That
Came up with it pretty early, yeah.
I did, and that became my goal, just to make this life so amazing that there's no room for alcohol to even be considered. And it hasn't steered me wrong. It's a pretty amazing life that I've managed to create with that.
So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. And what I heard you guys, what I'm hearing you all talk about when it comes to FOMO is that it's changed over time. We've got 4 years in range for 4 years. Julie and I are in the 3 years range, and Heather, you're 7. And I guess the reason why I'm pointing this out is for people that are listening that are right near the beginning, that it's not always going to feel that way. And that over time, the things that you're going to connect with and the grieving and all of that process is going to show you a different version of what you feel like you're missing out on. Raul, you talked about a really positive example of what the fear of missing out got you to face when you were talking about going to that event with your son. That fear of missing out helped you grow. So it's not always a negative thing. The fear of missing out has kind of a negative connotation, but really in the end, it's a choice that we get to make. So, and through the work of recovery, you get to, part of that choice is like, what are you going to fear missing out on? Like, it's not alcohol anymore. It's connection. It's people. It's events. It's your own recovery, a hobby maybe. There's so many different things that y'all mentioned. And yes, I just dropped a y'all.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to America.
I know they said y'all in Colorado, bro.
y'all.
Americans are putting are changing my language. I'm hanging out with a lot of them, and I had a y'all slide right off my tongue. Like,
okay, but y'all is, we can't give that to the entire country. Y'all is very regional.
Go ahead.
I'd like to just throw something out there to the people that are just starting in recovery, that are still wet behind the ears, if you will. Like, if I could give any suggestion, just hang out with like-minded people. Hang out with people that are going in the direction that you want to go. Like, hang out with people that are sober and inspiring and whatever it is. I mean, go seek and find those people, because I never could change in the same environment that I was trying to change from. So going out with the winners, man. Going out with the winners.
And that literally goes with anything. Alcohol, marijuana, whatever substance it is, whatever behavior it is, you can find there's groups of people for anything out there now that if you look hard enough, you can find. I want to say thank you, Heather. Thank you, Raul. And thank you, Gina, a.k.a. Modern Day Monk. See what I did there? Yeah. Anyways, I love you too. I want to say thank you guys so much for your time and for sharing your stories and experiences. This was amazing to get to sit down with all of you. Thank you so much.
You guys have a good night.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Raul.
Thank you.
Thanks to our listeners for sharing your time with us today. We hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, please consider sharing it with a friend. It's the best way to get the word out and the best way to support what we're doing here. See you next week when we dig into the topic of anxiety.